Hi everyone, it's Amelia here for your February 2020 Bad Astrologers Q&A video. Y'all sent some very heavy-hitting questions this month, so I want to dig right in and get to them. Jessa is traveling, so I will be taking this one flying solo. I hope you love it. I hope you get all the info that you need, and yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So the first question says, quick question, maybe you can address on the Q&A. Here we are. Even though it isn't specifically about a birth chart. So just want to pause and say any questions that you may have, even if they aren't about your specific chart, we would love to hear them. This podcast is about what you want to know. So send us all the topics, like please, we want to hear them. Question is, I want to start learning more about asteroids. We love it. What resources besides y'all would you recommend? Thank you. So, yes, we love asteroids, and anytime we talk about asteroids, we always reference this book, Demetra George's Asteroid Goddesses. It is terrific. I've had it for ages now. It's big, like you can see, like it's got, quite a bit of heft to it. And the subtitle is The Mythology, Psychology, and Astrology of the Re-Emerging Feminine. This is really, Demetra George is a wonderful astrologer to begin with, but this is really there are other texts I'm sure, but this is the one. The one that I rely on, that other astrologers rely on, like this is the good stuff. So go pick up a copy, you can get it on Amazon. It focuses on the four main asteroids, the larger ones, so Ceres, which is really the size of a dwarf planet, similar to Pluto, smaller than Pluto, but bigger than what we would consider just an asteroid. Ceres is the goddess of grain, the goddess of the harvest, rules things like nourishment, parenting, your relationship with food, how you care for and look after yourself, patterns relating to that, and sort of the way the Eleusinian mysteries, Ceres, Proserpina, Pluto, triangle kind of can play out in your own life. So that's a great one. The other three that this book focuses on are Pallas Athena, which we've talked about as being the goddess of wisdom, skill, war. She's associated with the creative practice, but in like the sense of honing your skills. Whereas Vesta, we have a whole episode on Vesta. I hope you've listened to it. If you haven't, go take a listen to that. Vesta is the goddess of Rome's eternal flame, the hearth goddess, somewhat akin to ancient Greece's Hestia, and she is the sort of inner creative spark that keeps you going, that devotion, that sense of care and higher service. And the last one is Juno, the queen of the heavens, goddess of, well, she was associated with marriage, childbirth, was the wife of Jupiter, who we have lots of feelings about, but I adore him. He's my chart ruler. Those are the ones that you're really going to start with. If you pull up I think an astro themed chart, not astro.com, those are going to be the options that you're given first, and those four are where the most research lies. So go there, study them. Again, this book has really excellent it breaks down specific placements. So if you have Ceres in your fourth house, on Venus, in Aries or something like that, you can get the delineations for that all in here. They're not as long as I might like, but the fact that they exist at all is really wonderful. Really can't recommend it highly enough. And there's a back section in here that has the ephemeris, you can see, for all the asteroids that I just mentioned, so you don't necessarily have to pull up the internet to access it. You can do it while you're reading the book. And then there's this chapter called the minor asteroids, and it gets into some of the weirder ones that I really like. Pandora, Chiron, Urania. The ones that I use most in my practice that are not maybe as known are Eros and Psyche, which sound like exactly what they are. Eros is the god of erotic love, and if you're doing a love reading for someone, that's a really great place to start, a place to see not just what turns you on, but just like what you're drawn to, what you're attracted to, the area where you feel most comfortable. And then psyche is, again, what she sounds like, the way that your mind works, and when you have a psyche contact with someone, it's like someone who you really feel like understands the way you tick on a deep level. So those are great. Mystic Medusa, I reference her all the time because she's just terrific. Her website has a lot of information. She used to have a little book, and you know what? I am going to send her an email and ask like if it's still available or how you might access it, called Soulmating. And it explained how the inter-aspects in synastry between your eros or psyche and someone else's eros or psyche explain the sort of karmic nature of your relationship. Very cool stuff. Surprisingly down to earth, you know, it sounds like twin flame crap, but it's really not. Everything that Mystic Medusa does brings a really like no nonsense vibe, which I'm so into. Mystic Medusa's site also, like, she was really the one that got me started studying some of the weirder asteroids. Like, she has posts on tons of different stuff, like Kali and Hecate and all kinds of things. You name it, she's got it. Bacchus, Dionysus, she talked about that. Bast, Isis, like literally everything. And she uses some in her horoscopes too, so yeah, Mystic Medusa, do it. I used to look at Dark Star Astrology for asteroid stuff. I try to avoid that site now. Something weird happened in the last year or so, and I don't know, she espouses some things that I'm not really into. But the information on asteroids there is pretty good, and there's some really specific ones. So, yeah, Demetra George, she's awesome. Get her book. And I hope that helps. If you have any other questions about like specific asteroids that have come up in your chart, feel free to shoot us an email. We can take a peek at that, talk to you about it. But good luck in your asteroid quest. I think you'll have a lot of fun. It's easy to lose an afternoon to like all the celebrity charts in your asteroid theme data bank, just like applying asteroids to them and seeing how that comes through. It's fun. Maybe too much fun, but anyways. Okay, if you see me leaning over, my laptop is over here and I'm just like endlessly scrolling. Anyways, next question says, I'm curious about the 2020 CD3, the asteroid recently discovered orbiting Earth. It sounds like it may have been with us for 3 years. I know it's just a little guy, but does it affect us Earthlings astrologically when it comes this close? This is such a fun question, and these are the questions that we need to be asking as astrologers. I think there's a tendency among astrology folks in general, not necessarily, but it can be, there's like a retrospection that happens where it's like you only are looking at the traditional things and completely ignoring the fact that like science has advanced. Like we know about so many other celestial bodies and stars out there, we're just basically completely ignoring them, or they're so new, like we just don't have the research to support yet. So that's why I love researching asteroids and seeing what I can find out. As far as the CD3 2020 asteroid, I don't know much about it. From what I've read, I know it's supposed to be like another moon, and that's kind of why it's gotten so much press, especially among astrologers, is that like, okay, if it's like a moon and it's orbiting us, like if the moon is so important and the moon is the goddess, the emotions, like would this throw that off in some way? And the truth is, as with any new thing that we discover astrologically, the only way to find out is to start studying. Like the answer is we have no idea, right? Like I could give you an answer, but it would probably just be gobbledygook. As far as does it affect us, I would say yes. It's just a matter of how. We don't know yet. This reminds me of, there's tons and tons of articles about the fixed star Betelgeuse, which is like not the guy in the striped suit. It's a very prominent regal fixed star that if you have it in your chart, it's supposed to be very, very prominent and very important. But it is, scientists are going back and forth about whether it's going to go, it could go supernova basically any day now. And it's like, okay, well, if anybody who has Betelgeuse, like that degree Gemini, like, are they gonna spontaneously combust? I don't know. But I would be curious to see if it did explode, like how would that's the work of astrology research, right? Is that that's where you begin, is like, if you know something has happened, you look at the people that have that in their chart and see what you can find out. Another example is that, and this one I don't know as much about, is that Ophiuchus, the 13th sign that like NASA and basically any media place tries to like throw out and be like, yeah, there's this new constellation and everyone's sign has changed. That's not the way it works. We're using the tropical zodiac, not the sidereal. It's about, it's a totally different perspective. So no, your sign is not going to change. But Ophiuchus recently has either like vanished or exploded. I'm not too sure. You know what? I'll find an article and I'll link to it so you can check it out on your own. But on astrology Twitter, people were talking about like, did all the collective rage of like the professional astrologers over Ophiuchus and did my sign change? Did that cause it to like explode into nothing? Who knows? Maybe we did cause it. The black hole that was photographed is supposedly at the same degree of Virgo that my Venus is at. So that's freaky. I don't know whether it means that like I'm super toxic vibes or something, I'm not sure. Or my love is vast and unknowable and immeasurable, like whatever. This is getting weird, so I'm gonna stop talking about it. But to answer your question, yes, like anything if we accept the premise that all of these other bodies in our solar system influence us, then we have to accept that other things would as well, like from a scientific standpoint. But it brings back to mind, like, where is the line between astrology and science, and are they one and the same? Who could possibly say, if you can figure it out, that good on you. But I hope that was helpful and not just totally weird. All right, next. This is from, well, I'm not going to say their name because they didn't tell me if they wanted me to say their name or not. But this person says, and this is a really great question, by the way, buckle up. I recently realized that Pluto transited over my ascendant several years ago, back before I began studying astrology. In fact, it ended up retrograding and spent most of January 2010 through November 2011 within a few degrees of my ascendant. From what I've read, this should have been an enormously transformative time in my life, but when I reflect back, it is genuinely void of anything noteworthy. I've experienced many life events in the years, both before and after, which have changed my trajectory and who I am as a person. For instance, I got married in 2009, divorced in 2013, discovered tarot in 2014, and made a massive career change in 2015, fell in love again in 2016, and moved to the city of my dreams in 2019. But in the time frame of that Pluto transit is almost suspiciously devoid of anything important. So what's the deal? Did astrology fail? Did I somehow miss an important karmic lesson? I'm gonna take a drink of water. This is gonna be big. So, did astrology fail? Or did you miss an important karmic lesson? Here's the way I see it. First of all, this is Pluto that we're talking about. And Pluto, in modern astrology, he has this huge reputation of when he comes through, it's going to be like, slash and burn agriculture. It's going to like bulldoze everything in your life, and it'll be quite dramatic and sudden. When in fact, Pluto is the underworld god, the god of the subconscious and of your psychology and the way your mind works. So it would stand to reason to me that a Pluto transit might not be as externally dramatic as we've made them out to be. You said that you got married in 2009 and then divorced in 2013. So it sounds like the years that Pluto was on your ascendant, you were really going through some shit with whoever this person was to figure out the limits of your individuality and who you are in partnership. Pluto can also be challenging in relationships. It can be sort of a fatal attraction type thing that can take you away from yourself or draw you closer to where you should be, depending on how you're doing, what aspects it's making, whatever. So what I'm seeing here is that maybe Pluto was working more on your subconscious than he was on your external world. I also think that it's important to note that Pluto takes a long time, 14 years, to transit a sign. So obviously the time when it goes over your ascendant is important, but that's just the beginning of the story, right? As long as Pluto is in that same sign, Capricorn, and it is, where it's been since 2008, that story isn't over yet. You're still experiencing it. And I know Pluto transits are tough, and you're like, I don't want every day to be like the hardest day in therapy with constant breakthroughs and whatever, but you know, it is what it is, and it does. I don't want to make it sound like something good when it's not. I don't want to disrespect the hard things that you've been through, but I do think that there is a strengthening factor to Pluto. You know, it looks like from the things that you said, you got married in 2009, but through whatever you went through with Pluto on your ascendant, you found the strength to go and be who you really are, right? You got a divorce, you made this massive career change, found love again, moved to the city of your dreams. Like, I would try to, sometimes astrological transits like this are about perspective, right? Also, I would consider the fact that maybe those important life events were triggered by other transits that you might not even have realized at the time. I'll use myself as an example. So right now I'm sitting in this new house, looks very different from the last time you saw me on video. For the last 7 years, I lived in the same place, a beautiful place. Thought that that was where I might have wanted to settle down and stay. Thought that was a place that I wanted to potentially buy. And through a series of events in mid to late 2019, discovered that that really wasn't the case. I was gonna suddenly have to find a new residence, and I was very uncomfortable with that. I didn't like that idea at first. And I was searching my chart for answers, like desperately. Like every day I would look at my chart and be like, what's going on? Like, I don't want this. And I was looking for things in the 4th house, because the 4th house is like home and like physical location and like the actual building in which you live. And that I did not have 4th house stuff happening. I was just like, this is such bullshit. Like, how can this possibly be happening to me when there doesn't seem to be an astrological reason for it? And like, I'm an astrologer, like, what is wrong with me? Why is this going on? And then it took me time, and an email to Jessa as well, but also time to understand that it was never about the 4th house. It was never about that home or buying a house or anything like that. It was about money and valuing myself and having an environment where I could work and flourish, right? I was having pretty profound transits to my 2nd house, which is about money, value, jobs, and my 6th house, which is like your day-to-day environment. And when I really was honest with myself, I realized that those two things were the crux of this experience that I was having. It had little to do with the 4th house. I mean, there was a couple like Jupiter, Neptune squares that involved the 4th house, but like the bigger lesson and transformation that I was undergoing was the Pluto in the 2nd house meets Uranus in the 6th house journey. So it could be a similar type of thing for you. Like, it could be there was another transit happening that made more of a difference, or really it was about something else. Although I do think that, you know, Pluto is much more subtle than we give him credit for. But when I look at the evidence of what you've told me, you've made such profound and beautiful changes since Pluto went over your ascendant, right? And I think it really, since that was the time during which you had that relationship, it's like that relationship was something of an underworld journey, right? It wasn't the above ground, like moving mountains. It was having to go within yourself and learn about those emotions. So I hope that helps. And I hope that if any of you watching this are having a transit and you're thinking like, did I miss a karmic lesson? Just erase that from your whole spiritual vocabulary. You know, I know there's a lot of language out there about, you know, choosing the lessons that you learn and like manifesting stuff. And like that stuff can be true and powerful, but more importantly, like if something's really meant for you, like you're not gonna miss it. Like don't guilt yourself or feel like, did I miss an important lesson? Because you didn't. You're exactly where you need to be, and I'm so glad that you are where you are now. And I'm so sorry that if you had to go through painful things during Pluto on your ascendant that you experienced that. But just have trust. Astrology didn't necessarily fail. It may have just been pointing you in a different direction. So thank you for asking the hard questions, and I hope this helps. Thank you. All right, next one. Hi, Amelia and Jessa. I have Mars in Cancer in my 12th house. Sob face. I love that. I know there's no bad placement in quotes, just harder energy to work with. And I'd love to know what's the best way to harness my Mars and not just turn into a passive-aggressive, repressed crab. Thanks again for your lovely podcast. Thank you for being a patron. Katie. So Mars in water signs is hard. Mars in water houses is hard. I know because I have both. I have Mars in, it's kind of flip-flop from yours. It's like the inverse. So I have my Mars in Pisces in the 4th house. So first I want to talk about the Mars in Cancer piece of things. So you and I have gone over this before, I think, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. Just want to make sure we got there. So Mars is in its fall in Cancer, which means that it's opposite the sign that it's exalted in, which is Capricorn, where it is right now. So obviously, since Mars is transiting Capricorn at the moment, you're kind of feeling that like Mars energy pinging off of that opposition a little bit. That might just be like an irritant, making you wonder like, I don't feel good, I want to know how to do Mars better. And that's okay. So Mars in Cancer is really hard because Mars, you know, people throw around the word aggressive, right? But I think it is a little more that like Mars is direct and forceful and wants what it wants. And I think Mars in Cancer can be so focused on the aspect of caretaking that it's hard for you to relate to that energy of like going after what you want and getting it, that really driven. The thing that you are most driven to do is secure your home base, make sure your friends and your family are taken care of, and just make sure that you have all of your needs accounted for. You feel really safe and protected. There's a strong theme of safety here, and I think sometimes when Mars in Cancer, you know, feels challenged, there can be, you know, I'm not saying that you are like physically in an unsafe space, but we all have psychological times where we, you know, our outside circumstances change, and so we might have to renegotiate the boundaries of what feels safe for us, right? Like how much time are you spending at home versus how much time do you go out? How much time are you working versus how much time are you spending for yourself? So, you know, how much are you sharing in public versus how much are you keeping private? I think people talk about that with Scorpio, but I think it's just as relevant to Mars in Cancer because you also have that hard exoskeleton, and though you have the, you know, the claws, you don't have the sort of poison weapons. So it's like you're out there and you have your hard exoskeleton, and that's all you've got, right? But I think Mars in Cancer, the best thing that you can do is work on those boundaries. I say it all the time, but like I think the more you can strengthen your understanding of what's meant to be held within yourself and what is meant to go out into the public, I think that'll help a lot. Mars in the 12th house is actually pretty cool. It probably doesn't feel that way a lot of the time. I know Mars in the 12th house can give you more of a need to rest than other people. You might look at the people in your life and you're like, they're doing so much and I'm just like real fucking exhausted and I have no clue how they're doing it. And that's okay because you have something that they don't have. Mars in the 12th house is kind of a secret weapon, right? Because it's Mars, instead of Mars as the person who goes and gets for themselves, It's Mars as the spiritual guide, the teacher, the guru, the white knight. And I think that in order for you to really be able to not be the passive aggressive or repressed crab, or like know what to do with that forceful Mars energy, you are only going to be able to thrive when you have a purpose, right? And like, oh, gross. I hate that purpose word, but like when you know what you're striving for, and when you're striving for something that's bigger than, like, it has to be something higher than just like, I want to flash my dollars. Like, it has to be something more heartfelt, something that comes from within, something that is going to truly make society a better place, something that feels magical, right? Mars in the 12th house, if you have a magical practice of some kind, I don't know whether you cast spells or write in a journal or simply follow astrology, that's a magical practice too. Like, that kind of thing can give your energy context, right? And give you ways of being that otherwise you wouldn't have access to. It's very dreamy, very good, very imaginative. You know, I think you have the capacity to be buoyed by your own vision of what it is that you want. You're able to kind of hold that in your mind and go, you can see it as clear as a movie and go after that instead of just having it be in the abstract. So my advice would be boundaries, understanding the limits of your exoskeleton and knowing how to protect yourself, and then also the magical, embracing the magical side of Mars in the 12th, and also getting enough rest. Katie, I know you like to overwork, and we talked about it. So if you're trying to do too much, don't like not do things in the name of self-care and just like procrastinate, but if you really need the rest, do the rest. Yeah. Okay, this is the last question. It says, what would you say to an astrology non-believer, or how would you cope with that? Do you have any advice for someone who's married to a person who thinks astrology is bullshit? Well, damn. Yeah, I do. So my advice on that topic is, first of all, you don't owe anybody any explanations. And you know, astrology is not a religion. It's not an evangelical religion. You're not out here trying to convert people to think what you do, right? Because, I mean, has that ever actually worked? And if it has, was it ever healthy? My personal policy is that I usually don't talk about astrology with unless someone else brings it up. I'm not saying that everybody has to do that. I do that at my own job just for self-protection. I live in the South, and I have to be real about the challenges and potential pitfalls that I could face. I think the internet has made astrology really, like, the boundaries of astrology has very much renegotiated them and made them, I think Neptune and Pisces has obscured things a little bit, right? You know, Neptune and Pisces can be like the religious fanatic, and you want everyone to be on your team, like, join my cult. When in fact, it's okay to just enjoy something in your own heart and your own mind. So as far as astrology non-believers that like you have no outside obligations or relationships to, like, fuck them. They don't need, you don't owe them an explanation, and you don't need to explain this to them. And honestly, if someone is like the type of shitty, like, prove me wrong type, like, you talking to them isn't going to change their mind. It's just gonna give them what they want. So, you know, if you enjoy engaging in debates, I don't know what your Mars sign is, like, if that's your thing, fucking go for it, enjoy it. But if debating is not something that you enjoy, don't feel like you owe it to the rest of the astrology people of the world to convince them, because they, you know, I have seen memes that are like, astrology exists, but, you know, outside of, you don't have to believe in astrology because it still exists. And like, yeah, that's true. But also, astrology can be your secret weapon, right? If you have it, you know, I think astrology is for everyone who wants to learn. I think there have always been teachings that, you know, maybe they aren't for everybody, right? Like, that maybe your average Joe doesn't like need to know. That's not necessarily true. I'm totally welcoming to anybody that wants it, but I'm really against this idea that we should have to Astrology by nature is an intuitive, spiritual thing. And while it has connections to the natural world, I think trying to debate with someone who just wants to explain it away is going to suck energy away from you. So you focus on your own astrology practice, babe, and enjoy it. So how do you cope with someone who's married to a person who thinks astrology is bullshit? Okay, this is where things get confusing or different for me. So if they think astrology is bullshit, I would question how are they interacting with you in your relationship with astrology. If they think it's bullshit and that's just like a turn of phrase, but they are completely loving and respectful of your beliefs and you're respectful of their beliefs, like nothing needs to change, right? If it's something that you'd like to share with them, like see if maybe they want to know about it, but if not, like it can completely coexist, right? As long as they completely love, accept, and don't look down on you at all for it. If they do, that's a different kind of conversation that would need to be had that has nothing to do with astrology and has a lot more to do with how that person is treating you in your relationship, because you deserve to be absolutely loved and accepted unconditionally, no matter what your interests are, whether they were Christianity or any other religion or astrology or I don't know, like cooking or baking or some other hobby. Like they should be respectful of what you love, and if they love you, they're gonna love all of you. My hope would be is that you could have some like pretty cool conversations and like they could learn from you and you could learn from them. I'm gonna go with like this person's super positive and like they just don't, astrology isn't the wave they're riding, and that's cool. My husband isn't really an astrology, he's not against astrology, but he's not like an astrology fiend like I am, but he's like very open to it. If I'm like, well, Mercury's retrograde right now, so like maybe shop for a vintage version of that, or maybe wait until later to do X, Y, or Z. Like he like enjoys the little pieces of insight that I'm able to give, but it's not, it's not something that gets in the way of our relationship, and he's always like profoundly respectful of the work that I do. So I think mutual respect and love is the foundation that every relationship has to be centered upon. And if this person is giving you trouble, I would try to have a conversation with them about it. But we're always here. If you need help, you can ask us questions. And yeah. Okay, that's everything. That was a lot. That was a lot of very intense conversation. I hope that you enjoyed it, and like I really hope that you find these helpful. So the next one of these, we'll be putting out the call on the next full moon, so a little bit earlier than normal. That way we can get it to you by the end of the month. So if you are a $10 patron, make sure you get us your question, ask anything about your natal chart you want, or about astrology that you want, or just, you can ask whatever, like what is your favorite movie, don't care. Happy to help. I hope you have a wonderful March. I hope that the stars give you everything you want and more, and yeah, thank you for watching. Mwah.